In the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix at the Imola circuit, Max Verstappen secured another race win, his fifth race out of 7 this season, extending his lead in the overall Formula One drivers' standings ahead of the Monaco Grand Prix. Nevertheless, this time it wasn't easy to beat his rivals, just like 2 weeks ago in the Miami Grand Prix. The pressure from the competition is increasing, and unlike at the beginning of the 2024 Formula One Championship, the Red Bull package couldn't afford any flaws. McLaren and Scuderia Ferrari have significantly closed the gap with their latest developments. The Dutchman responded by making a significant tactical adjustment. In the first stint of the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, the world champion could surgically attack the track in the most challenging sections for the RB20 single-seater. Max Verstappen took an aggressive approach, even coming close to receiving a penalty for track limits violations. However, he quickly gained an advantage by utilizing settings tailored for the medium tires, a decisive asset to fend off the final assault from Lando Norris's excellent McLaren MCL38. The debut of the 2.0 version of the SF-24 car at the Imola circuit was more positive than the result might suggest at first sight, as Ferrari has recovered another 2.5 tenths from Red Bull. Those who are disappointed believe in miracles. In Maranello, the technicians and engineers believe that the full understanding of the new aerodynamic package will be achieved between the races at the Gilles Villeneuve circuit in Montreal and at the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona. Meanwhile, the focus now shifts to the Monaco Grand Prix, and Charles Leclerc is ready to break the curse in his home race after overtaking Sergio Perez in the Formula One drivers' standings after last weekend. In Imola, none of the 3 cars were perfect. In the end, Scuderia Ferrari lost the home race by missing the front row in the qualifying session on Saturday. However, if there's a less negative side, it should be pointed out that the gap to Red Bull is no longer a matter of tenths, but rather hundredths. As the data shows, Ferrari's deficit to the Austrian side has significantly decreased compared to what was seen in the first round of the 2024 Formula One Championship, the Bahrain Grand Prix, not to mention the end of the previous championship. Looking at the average delay in the first 6 races, it is clear that the Italian side has responded well to the updates that have been introduced by the competition, performing better in terms of race pace than in the qualifying session, which remains the main weak point to address for the team led by Vasseur. The Ferrari engineers are now developing the next upgrades, focusing on 2 central aspects: how to improve the quality of downforce, namely the settings to apply the right energy to the tires at the right moment, and how to improve efficiency on the straight. On the first point, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz were still struggling with responsiveness at the start of the lap and in the first stint with the softer Pirelli compounds, losing a tenth on the straight and a tenth in the chicanes. The Monegasque driver talked about hybrid management, but it is also a broader issue of overall efficiency if you are still forced to travel more meters in rotation at the start of the lap and to fight more drag than your direct competition. The softer the tire, the less rigidity the sidewall provides, increasing harmful understeer if you haven't set the right countermeasures. However, it's not a simple algorithm to solve. It can also be something in the pressure management, and you must deal with the balance you need to achieve throughout the entire race. On the second point, despite the update reducing drag, the SF-24 has raced 7 races with an all-purpose rear wing. It is a clear sign that the aerodynamic platform remains stable with changing layouts and is less dependent on the specific setup used. However, steps forward are expected towards the British Grand Prix at the Silverstone circuit or at the Hungaroring track in Hungary, because on some circuits, Red Bull and McLaren have a certain advantage ranging from 2 to 6 km per hour. The Maranello team needs to push on the hundredths. It takes at least 3 races to see how the car performs on different types of corners before bringing other updates, as recently confirmed by team principal Vasseur after the race in Italy. Scuderia Ferrari waited 7 races to debut an update that changed the development direction. The new parts will arrive in stages, with separate packages, unlike what McLaren, Aston Martin, Mercedes, and partially Red Bull are doing. Diego Tondi's aerodynamicists are finalizing the second package scheduled for Silverstone in 5 races, with other new parts that Ferrari hope will be able to eliminate the main problems of the SF-24 car. Meanwhile, the Monaco Grand Prix is just around the corner, where what has been missing so far will be needed. In the Principality, the updated SF-24 single-seater will introduce a new high downforce rear wing specification and a new drag reduction system device. Charles Leclerc's third place in the Made in Italy and Emilia Romagna Grand Prix clearly did not meet Ferrari's expectations, even though the Monegasque driver secured second place in the Drivers' Championship ahead of the Monaco Grand Prix, overtaking Sergio Perez, who struggled at Imola like never before this season. Technicians report that the aerodynamic package worked well in Italy, although it is frustrating to see a McLaren between the Red Bull and the Ferrari when the gap is just a tenth of a second per lap. Both drivers have confirmed that a precise measurement of the modifications introduced at the Enzo and Dino Ferrari circuit will not be possible in the next round of the 2024 Formula One season in Monte Carlo. Therefore, a clear evaluation of the first package of interventions will have to wait for the Canadian Grand Prix and the Spanish Grand Prix. Frédéric Vasseur insists that Ferrari must take an aggressive approach this season, aware that developments can significantly impact the course of the championship. The Scuderia has therefore divided the season into 3 blocks to introduce an update approximately every third of the season, distributing the development budget allowed by the 2024 spending constraints. And according to rumors from the Imola paddock, the next evolutionary step is planned for the Hungarian Grand Prix on July 21st. However, unlike what happened in Miami, Ferrari might advance some updates planned for Budapest to Silverstone. During the first of the 3 American races on the calendar, the Imola package could have been introduced 1 Grand Prix earlier, as admitted by the French team principal. Yet the Ferrari technicians made the decision not to risk debuting the updates during a sprint race weekend, something McLaren managed to do successfully, and preferred to wait for the first European event. Between major evolutionary steps, several minor interventions are planned to adapt the SF-24 car to specific track characteristics. At the upcoming Monaco Grand Prix, a new high downforce rear wing will therefore be introduced, followed by 2 other different solutions. This is noteworthy considering Ferrari tackled the first 6 races of the 2024 Formula One season with a single rear wing configuration, despite the diverse tracks encountered so far. The new configuration seems more sensitive to changes, having opened up some operating windows that require more specific solutions. If being the third force at the Imola circuit, both in the qualifying session and the race, was frustrating for the Maranello team, reducing the gap to Red Bull to just a tenth should suggest that they are on the right track. Advancing developments could be a way to catch their rivals off guard in the second part of the 2024 Formula One Championship. There is little doubt that Max Verstappen and Red Bull are still in a very solid position to see out both championships, but with more than 2/3 of the championship still to run, the recent surges by Ferrari and especially McLaren have injected some much-needed life into the competitive order. But what's clear is that, with Ferrari's Charles Leclerc also just 7 seconds behind, the margins are now so fine that Verstappen and Red Bull can no longer cruise to wins or brute force their way out of issues elsewhere by virtue of having a superior car.